Unbelievable. 52 dead, 17 wounded. Hello everybody, FunReviews here, and we're currently in dry dock, having repairs done to the ship, so she can head out on her next voyage, or if it's necessary, will be transferred to another ship. But today, since I'm currently addicted to Star Trek Online, I want to talk about the first expansion in Star Trek Online, Delta Rising. I'm going to skip over the gameplay, which is exactly the same, and the presentation, which is exactly the same, but they do seem to have up-resed it a little bit for the cutscenes, because now there actually is proper cinematic cutscenes showing off points in the game, like a point, spoilers here, like a point at the final mission of Delta Rising, where you meet a Kabali Harry Kim. They show how Harry Kim died in Voyager, and they actually managed to get B'Elanna to voice it. But now let's talk about the story. The story for Star Trek Online is a lot more epic than the original story. It has a new map for the Delta Quadrant. It's not as big as the original main map, but there's not that many powers in the Delta Quadrant. But the story has you, your captain, fighting a race from Star Trek Voyager named the Vaguar, who are a deadly species who used to be quite not much of a threat in the Delta Quadrant, but have now become such a large threat due to an evil race known as the Iconians, who have given them these mind-control bugs, not bugs as in, like, they've metal as in proper actual insects, that control the Vaguar leaders' minds and are causing them to work for the Iconians, and have started a war in the Delta Quadrant that the Federation has had to get involved in. But this time, you aren't alone, like Voyager was. This time you get to fight alongside Harry Kim with the USS Rhode Island, who is actually... all of the characters from Voyager are voiced by the characters. So you get to fight alongside Harry Kim with the USS Rhode Island, Tuvok in the USS Voyager, Neelix, the Doctor, the EMH, and of course, they couldn't get this to a decent standard without 7 of 9. All voiced by the original cast and playing multiple roles. This game, the game is heavily themed around Voyager. No other season, Voyager. It's been 32 years after Voyager returned home from the Delta Quadrant. Tuvok is now an admiral, Harry is now a captain, 7 of 9 is working on anti-Borg weaponry, Neelix stayed in the Delta Quadrant as an ambassador, and the Doctor has now become the leading expert in Delta Quadrant medical expertise. But the story is basically the Vaguar have started a war in the Delta Quadrant and the Alpha Quadrant. So the Federation have got involved, and we've got some of our major allies, like a group of rogue Borg drones, who I've never trusted, the Hierarchy, who I can't stand, the Kazon, who I want to see die. But luckily they do, because they betray us. They betray the Federation. And many other species. Oh, and the Kabali, of course, who were never actually violent. They were just there, and Voyager came across them. But during this expansion is much more epic. Only a few levels in Star Trek Online actually reached the level that they do in Delta Rising. In the final section of the war segment, you actually see an all-out war playing out, and you get to lead it. You can select different allies as you go along, with a few twists and turns, which I will spoil, so skip to the final level, which will still be spoilers. So if you've not played it, don't watch this video. I'll probably link a video in the description that you can go watch and leave an annotation here. And as you do it, you get to fight the Vaguar on several different occasions with your allies, like the Hierarchy, the Borg, Kazon, who betray us, who, yay, I got to kill them, and lots of other Delta Quadrant species, who I really loved that final battle. And word of warning, I don't recommend going into this fight with a weak ship. Go in there with minimum Prometheus class. If you do play the game, you will know that. So I'd recommend, if you go in with a weaker ship, buff it up. Make sure your bridge officers are on the best they can be. Make sure your ship has the very minimum transphasic torpedoes. Or upgrade your ship. Like, I couldn't actually play through the whole section without upgrading to an Odyssey class. So, yeah, word of warning, this is no easy feat. Minimum level is 50 to play it. But in essence, the main section of it is actually facing the Vaguar. But one of my favourite levels in the whole game, in the whole of Star Trek Online, one of my favourite missions is a mission in the Delta Rising called the Mindscape, where you go into Tuvok's mind and face an evil member of the Undine, which is, if you are a Star Trek fan, you will know as Species 8472. I'll probably put a picture here of what they look like. Where you actually go into Tuvok's mind through a mind meld and are able to interact with it. You get to go on Voyager several times, which was awesome, seeing Voyager's bridge and what's happened to it over time. But you get to see what the Undine fear, and that is being assimilated, even though they shouldn't really be able to fear that because they can't be assimilated. But I can understand being afraid of that. But yeah, that is one of my favourite levels in the game. You get to face Cooper, who for some reason stays in human form, not Undine form. You get to face several Undine in it, which is really cool. But now, on to the final level. Okay, so you've done it. You've defeated the Vaguar. You're on cleanup duty. We find out that there's a small group of Vaguar that haven't actually decided to abide by the peace treaty. They've gone on to try to retake the Kabali homeworld and reanimate Vaguar in storage. And we find out that they've made a clone of Captain Harry Kim, who at the time of the time of him being cloned, was Ensign Harry Kim on Voyager, who is now desperate to contact his ship, which, since he doesn't realise it's been 32 years since Voyager actually made it home, will risk a severe confrontation with Vaguar forces, which could destroy Voyager and himself in the process. So the following level is a really creative level with traps and fighting, getting to disable his warp drive in the process, and it's a really fun level. But the final rating for Star Trek Online, A Delta Rising, is the highest rating I can give. It's a 10 out of 10. That I can't think of a fault in it. And the faults are not this expansion's fault, it's MMO faults, not the actual expansion. So I can't really fault it. So, I'll see you guys on the next FunReviews. Bye!